Welcome, all pregnant families, midwives or birth workers. This is Tracy Anderson Askew, your host for the Transform Your Birth podcast, changing your mind about birth one story at a time. Each week we will be exploring a birth story through the lens of what birth can teach us. I'll be digging deep into each story so you can learn what it is that can change the way a birth unfolds. We can't control birth, but we can influence it. So listen in to find out how. Enjoy. Muriel is from France and never imagined home as a place to give birth. It was her husband and his family who had all birthed their babies at home that gave her the confidence. What she discovered was her own inner strength by going deeper into herself to manage the intensity of labour. It is the journey inward that unlocks our own potential, and of course this is exactly what we need to learn for parenting. A lovely story to inspire confidence. Please enjoy Muriel's story.
Before we begin, a note from our sponsor. This episode has been brought to you by Transform Parenting, an organisation that provides courses, coaching and community from pregnancy through to the first 7 years of a child's life. Most of the stories you will hear through this podcast are graduates of the Transform Your Birth workshop held in Canberra. Our Transform Your Birth Today course is now available to anyone, anywhere, at any time, and includes all the wonderful wisdom of this course and live weekly catch-ups when you need it with our host, Tracy. For a little taste, please accept our pregnancy gift offer, which contains free the first few lessons and some essential wisdom for pregnancy. The link can be found in these show notes or visit transformyourbirth.com.au. And now for the episode.
Hello, everybody. It's the Transform Your Birth podcast. And with me today is the lovely Muriel. And she's got a little girl, Eloise, who's 8 weeks old. So she's pretty fresh out of the birthing arena, which is amazing. I get amazed when mothers can line up to do a podcast so early. So thank you, my darling, for coming.
You're welcome.
Now, when you were pregnant with little Eloise, how were you feeling about the prospect of birthing? And what sort of preparation did you feel you needed to do to get ready?
Look, I felt pretty good throughout my my pregnancy. We had so Eloise is an IVF baby, and obviously very excited to for it to work and have her with us. So when I felt pregnant, it all went really good from the start. So she's right next to me.
She's saying hello to us all. Hello, darling.
And obviously we had to consider the birthing options. So at first we were considering birth centres, and then came about the idea of home birthing. So how it came about is, so my husband, Micah, has got 3 children, and they're all home birthed, and his family, they're a family of home birthers. So my mother-in-law had 8 children, and 4 of them born at home, and my sister-in-laws have had home births as well. So we decided with Micah to go down that path of home birthing.
Now, Micah had the background of home birth. He'd obviously grown up with it, and then, of course, with his first 3 children, was very happy to go down that path. Was that a big shift for you to go from, because a lot of people don't even have that in their realm of choice. They don't even consider it as an option. So what was it like for you to get your head around the idea that this might actually be a choice? Was that a big leap?
It was a big leap because culturally, so I grew up in France, and in France it's pretty much you go to the hospital, and that's your only option. And I see it with obviously my mum and my sister, and for me in my head that was how things were done. And then obviously being this relationship and around my family came this home birthing, and then it all went well for all of them. So I thought, look, why not? And then you hear other stories when it actually happens at hospital, and then you hear medication and forceps and and all sorts of things being involved. And I didn't hear any of this in the in the home births of the people around me.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll give it a shot. I want to give it a try.
I'll have what they're having.
Yes, 100%. I want a beautiful birth. I want to stay at home. I want to be, around, in my home. I want to be, supported. I want to be around my dog, and not having to leave my home.
So the track record, which when you look at the statistics of home births, are very, very good. The safety of home birth is certainly a viable option. With any home birth, though, you always have to have the understanding that you might need to transfer, and then you talk about how that sort of possibility would unfold. But that's certainly from a safety perspective, the data shows us that it's a really fabulous option. So you got your head around the idea that, that sounds good. You guys have been able to do it. I should be able to do it. What sort of prep did you do then to get you ready?
So I did your course, and I did your course early on in pregnancy, which was, and if I could give an advice, would be to do it early on in pregnancy. And your course gave me enough information about the whole physical and physiological things that were happening to my body, because I'm a bit of an overthinker. And I thought, if I just go too much in depth about, birth and in pregnancy, then it will do my head and I'll just get stressed and I will overthink about things. So for me, ignorance was bliss. And I just grabbed the information that I needed to not overthink, and not stress about it. I just, I asked questions to the midwife, just have the minimum. You gave me the minimum, and that was all I needed. So that's on an informational point of view. Then on a physical level, I did some yoga with Julia Willoughby. So that was really nice as well, because it was very informative as well, about how you can move, how your body can move, to help you birth. And that was all I needed to know, that, I need to move my body, I need to be able to breathe, and I need to be able to relax. And that's really the two things that stuck with me, and that's all I needed to know. And that was, said like that, easy enough. But, having gone through the birth, that was just what I needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you've brought that point up, Muriel. We do like to get information, and we can scan everything and listen to everybody and everybody's opinions. And one of the problems that happens with that is when you get too much information, it overloads the mind. The mind doesn't know what to do with it, and it sits there creating inner tensions and inner conflicts. Whereas one of the things I do is really distill it down to what exactly is your job. And by the way, under all circumstances, it's going to work. And it really comes down to the capacity to breathe and optimize your physiological response, which, by the way, not too many people breathe well. And from there to start to practice going into deeper states of relaxation and do the practices. And then, of course, you went off to Julia, who completely understands the nature of this approach and the physiology of birth, and that would have reinforced and locked in those new belief systems around birth. The practices are a big part of the change process. Is there anything you noticed around the practices that really supported you?
So throughout the birth, I managed to move in ways that, like, say, unlocked things or made me feel a bit better physically. Just putting the leg up, or just moving my hips on the ball, and these sort of things that I could integrate into the birth. I also did a lot of, going back to the preparation, I did a lot of walking towards the end of pregnancy. And it's probably not the safest what I've done, but I would challenge myself and go up Mount Ainsley and Mount Majura. But
Nice.
you know, but not only did it challenge me physically, but it challenged me mentally.
Mm.
And you know, again, can I breathe through? You know, like, you know, can I walk up and still breathe? Can it be
Mm.
hard on my body, and can I still breathe? And it just becomes this, you know, mind challenge, a mind fight that I actually found in the birthing.
There you
You know,
go.
because it is
Mm.
just you and your mind.
Yeah, so true.
And you can't escape it. I was at home. Of course I could have, you know, things got really hard. I could have gone to North Canberra Hospital, but things were going well. Things were going
Mm.
well, but I still had to, you know, use my mind to just push through.
Yeah, yeah. So Muriel, tell us how it unfolded for you. What happened on the day?
So I started to have contraction at about 4 p.m. They were starting to get quite regular. It was really hot that day. It was, I think, that day when it was 37
Wow.
degrees.
Yep.
Yeah, so my dear husband put on the sprinklers on the in the backyard, and I was just sitting on the grass with the sprinklers on for for let's say probably 1 hour. So that was really nice. And then at around 7, they got a bit more intense. So that's when I put on my TENS machine. So that was my material support. And I really enjoyed having the TENS machine.
Mm-hmm.
I had it on for about, I think, 5 hours. I had it on my back.
Yep.
Um, and then my midwife arrived. And something really funny, I thought she would come to see me and check me and everything, just make sure that I was all right. But she just walked straight past me and just sat in a corner, and I was like, okay, that's all right. And she just let me do my thing, and then obviously checked the baby's heartbeat every now and again.
Mm.
But pretty much let me do my thing.
Can I just
Um,
come in there, Muriel? She's come
yeah,
in and she sat in the corner and just watched you. And
yeah.
when you looked at her, what was the messaging she was giving you just looking? What was the message under her actions there?
It was, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You're fine. You're doing great. I'm just gonna set up and let you do your thing.
Yeah, see, it's a very powerful, it seems like a bit of a detail, but it's a very powerful thing for a woman in labour to see her midwife who's not looking at all concerned about what's going on. She doesn't have furrowed eyebrows. She doesn't have, this look of, oh, we've got to keep an eye on things. Yet I have absolutely no doubt she was keeping an eye on things. She was using her intuitive nature to really sense, how's the mother going? The mother's looking calm. And she's giving you those beautiful messages by not doing anything that you could see. I'm
Yeah,
sure
and
she was. Yeah.
looking back, yeah, if she'd been all concerned, I would have been
Yeah,
all concerned.
absolutely. So
Yeah,
that's just a point of home birth midwives are very, very good at creating the perfect conditions to support that mother so she doesn't lose her focus. And that's the perfect thing to do. That's funny. Then
yeah.
what happened? How were you finding comfort in all of that as it was building up?
Comfort was with Micah. So
Mhm,
Micah was always with me. I had also my mother-in-law, so
mhm,
Penny. And I will be forever grateful for Penny for
mhm,
being around and preparing things around, in the background, because we were at home, and obviously there's blood loss, and there's I need to drink, and I need to get up, and I need to be comfortable. And she was providing all that, and then when Micah had to go and eat and take a bit of a rest, she stepped in.
mhm.
So she was obviously my mother-in-law, but she was really, she was my doula.
Yeah,
She was looking after me, and all of us pretty much, and after Micah as well.
Mm. What a
Yeah. So,
great mother-in-law.
oh yeah, yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so after a while, at about probably 9, my waters broke.
Mm-hmm.
Waters broke. And Micah really wanted me to jump in the pool
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, he blew it up and he filled it up, and I think he really wanted me to go into the pool, and I was a bit reluctant because like, oh, I've got my TENS machine, I feel really good, but okay, I'll just jump in the pool. And I think that was really what I needed.
Wow.
Because it really calmed me down. But what it did as well, it slowed down the contractions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the midwife again said to Micah, really gently, away from me, look, the contractions have slowed down. Just suggest to Muriel to just get out and maybe just go to the bathroom, to sit down on the toilet. Which I did, and then from then on, the really active labour started. So it was probably about around midnight, and then I then stayed in a bedroom, and I was just going from the ensuite to on the floor in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and that's and that's after about 2 hours of really deep and hard labor. She came out at 2:22 on her due date.
What a well-timed baby.
Yes, she is.
So few babies come on their due date. That's funny.
Yeah.
So tell us about second stage. What was it like pushing her out? Because that's a change, isn't it?
It is a change, and I think I lost my breathing a bit there, and before that as well. There are say good contractions, not so good contractions, and you obviously you're kind of a bit taken aback by the intensity of it all, and sometimes you have the breathing nailed down, and then sometimes it just gets out of hand, and you're like, okay, well, next one I'll I'll breathe a bit better. Then again, that's when the midwife stepped in and said, look, push, deep and long, because my breathing my pushing was broken.
Mm-hmm.
So I would push, stop, and push, stop. So that really wasn't allowing Eloise to, or me to push her out properly. So so that's what she advised, and that's I think I said to Micah, the only thing I said to him was that it hurts, but I didn't want to then, it didn't cross my mind to then, go to the hospital or things like that. I just knew I had to push through, and that's, women tell you about that, you have to go deep, and you go into that, you go somewhere in your head or in yourself, and women tell that to you, and you're like, oh, okay, well, don't know what that is, but yeah, when you experience it, you go, okay, that's where I went. And I had my sister-in-law as well, Jemima, who was taking photo of the birth. So if I could advise also, if someone could be around and take photos, like to have those memories. And I have my head down all the time. And that probably, shows that I was really deep in myself, gathering whatever I needed, strength, to really push through, and and there she came.
That deep in yourself piece is where women need to go, because there's no getting off the bus. And it's that pushing through that we have to do to overcome the magnitude of the miracle that we're undergoing. It is a huge thing to give birth. And it's one of those times in your life where we typically look outside of ourselves for answers. But what's required is for a woman to go deeper. and deeper. And when she can do that, knowing that she's in a completely safe space, she's got people around her who know what they're doing, who are there to care for her, support her, and she feels the safety of that, then she can go where she needs to find the resources that she needs to in order to do the job. And that's the beautiful thing about home birth. We're not interrupting that at all because we're not even going to the hospital. And that diving deeper, can you recall, Muriel, the experience of that? Have you got words for it, or is it a bit beyond words? You may not be able to. I just thought I'd ask.
It's it's funny because the following days I kept on watching those photos, and I kept on wondering, did that really happen, and where was I?
Yeah.
Like, I know I was there physically, but my mind was just something else. So I don't know if it's something that is transcendental or I was there but not there.
Yeah.
A bit of a funny.
Well, you're not in the cortex layer of your brain from a perspective of thinking. You're not thinking anymore. You're going into the more primal part of your brain. But there's also, and I think you're right. It's very hard to put words around this. And I think women will have different experiences of it as well. But it's that inward journey that is where our resources are. And by the way, that's where the resources are when it comes to parenting as well. It's when we dig deeper that we work out what our babies need. It's the journey inwards that helps us to become the mothers we need to be. And I work a lot with new parents, and the biggest challenge they have is all the noise around them. They've got so much noise around them, which keeps drawing them out of themselves, and they're looking for answers on Instagram or on Google from the maternal and child health nurse, and the journey to trusting yourself and just letting all that go and just start to do what feels right can be, is a really important turning point for most mothers. And I can see that's reflected in birth as well. So tell us what it was like, Muriel, when you met her. What was that moment like?
It was I don't know, it was just great. I felt her, like I felt her crowning, and I think I said, she's coming. And then I just pushed again, like, because it was obviously getting a bit intense. And then I pushed her out, and she just pushed out, came into Micah's arms.
Oh, wow.
And cried straight away. And then he passed her to me through my legs, and then it's like my baby, my baby's my baby's here. And everyone was around, and my dog was right next to us, and she was like looking at the baby. It's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have wished for a better birth. And my Penny, my mother-in-law, had all the warm towels ready for her, so got wrapped in warmth straight away. And after a few minutes, then I sat on the toilet, waited for the placenta to come out, and then it was just Micah, myself, and Eloise. The midwives just quietly left, and it was just us. We were just on the bed and just enjoying our baby, and and then after a couple of hours, we just got to sleep a little bit, and no disruption. Had a bit of a tear though. Had a bit of a tear because she came out. She had her hand on her face, so that just created a bit of a tear. The midwives just looked after that straight away, and that was gently done as well. And
Wow. So what did you learn about yourself?
Oh man, like, if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be birthing at home, I would have told you, man, you're crazy.
Oh dear.
You just, I don't know, like I did it. yeah, sometimes like, man, you're a machine, I did it. I did it. You just feel so proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And without anything. And when I tell my aunts in France, I birthed at home, and actually my parents didn't know that I was
Probably a wise thing.
I know, because you tell people, and we're
Yeah.
talking about support before, and then people go, home birth, all right. And then you got to also go beyond that and not be affected by
Yeah.
that and go, oh, have I made the right decision? But because I had enough people around me who made that decision and who turned out really, really good, then it was like, yeah, I am making the right decision. And then, the midwife was just great. So I was making the right decision. I had to go beyond the comments, and even though they came from friends, I had to go beyond that. Yeah, so I told my parents, in the end, and then and then they thought that I didn't have time to go to the hospital. I was like, no, no, I did have time, but we decided to do it at home, and lots of questions, and then we're happy
Yeah.
that all went well. And
Yeah.
it's it was an opportunity for me to educate them a little bit on what happens when you have C-section, when you have the epidural, and when you have all those things that we learned in your class that I had no idea about, of all the impact of all that. So yeah, they were quite surprised and amazed that I went through that. So it feels good for the ego, I think. And just to think, yeah, I had the strength to do all that by myself. With the support that I had.
Yeah. A lot of people do project their fears onto pregnant women. And those fears are often from their own limited understanding about what's safe, what isn't. And I think it's really important, particularly for those listening, to appreciate the impact that other people's words can have on you. I often say when people come at you with their stories, just put your hand up and say, please don't tell me a story, because every story is different. Unless it's a positive one, then it might be worth listening to. But for the most part, most people are often feel the need to warn you. But what they're doing is they're projecting fear, and your mind has to do something with it. And without the proper understanding, your mind doesn't know what to do, which then creates fear, which then creates tension in your body, which then stops you from working with birth, not against it, putting you in a stress response and making it harder. And so that's why what people say can actually find its way into your birth room. It can have a direct impact on your physiological response to birth. So what I often say to people is put your hand up and say, please don't share your story, because every story is different. But what I am interested in is, what did you learn that helped you? And that's such a good question. And most women will be able to say, oh, well, when I did this, it really helped me find comfort. And that sort of information can be really gold. But people's stories and ideas and opinions are not useful. Women have got to find their own way to where they feel safe. And it was wonderful you were able to navigate that. And for those who are planning a home birth, I don't think it's necessary to tell other people. It's your business where you give birth. So yeah, but it's unfortunate. We have to sometimes hold those things privately rather than feel comfortable to share. For fear of people's opinions. So you had a very straightforward birth, Muriel, which is absolutely wonderful. Can you identify how that influenced your parenting? I'm always curious to know, because I have a deep belief that what we learn in birth sets us up for parenting. Is there anything that comes to you?
So in those 8 weeks, I think probably confidence. Probably confidence. And look, Mike had 3 children as well, so he's really great support for me.
Yeah.
For me too. I'm still navigating, in between the cries and not making her too dependent.
Well, she is dependent.
She is. She is.
There's no fighting that one.
But
Her survival depends on you.
yeah.
Trying to get her into good habits. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Into good habits and not creating bad habits.
Well, you're going to end up doing that too, probably, because babies change so quickly. So quickly. What worked yesterday doesn't work the next day. It always changes. Yeah.
No, I actually haven't thought about that one, to be honest.
Well, I think, to come out of birth like you did with that sense of, I did it, and that strength would absolutely feed into your confidence. And confidence can be very helpful when you're learning. And this learning curve is so steep with your first baby. I mean, there's so much adjustment to do. And so coming out of birth feeling like you've been able to contribute, you've been able to bring something to the party, that it hasn't just happened to you. And sometimes women can feel very overwhelmed by birth. Then that stands you in very good stead to navigate that huge learning curve. And even when birth is overwhelming, that's okay too, because it helps you to realize that sometimes we have to go to the edge of ourselves and then we come back, and to remind ourselves that we came back from the edge, that it was overwhelming. There wasn't much I could do, but I still got through it. I still survived. And that's something always worth remembering. And to be gentle with how we label our births and our so-called performance in birth. Well, Muriel has taught us the beauty of home birth. When you create the right conditions around that mother, where she doesn't even have to go into the hospital, where she had incredible support from her partner. She had a beautiful midwife who was very calm and kept an eye on things, but was sending very clear messages to Muriel that she's got this. She had her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law who were there providing the other backup support, the logistics, photos, all those wonderful things to help Muriel process what she's been through. Photos are a good thing to do that. I'd recommend that for anybody, but it doesn't have to be an extra person. It can just be the second midwife. Just give her permission to grab the phone and click away. That whole process where we create those perfect conditions, most of the time support birth to unfold in a very straightforward, uncomplicated way. It truly is the perfect conditions to optimize the physiological response to birth. Having said that, though, sometimes we need help and we need to be okay with that as well. So birth is a mystery. We never know what's ahead of us, but it was lovely to hear a story that was so confident, provoking, and to support other women's confidence in our ability to welcome these babies. So thank you so much, Muriel, for sharing your beautiful story with us today. Is there anything else you want to say to finish off?
No, thank you for having me, and to, all the pregnant mums out there, just, do what feels right for you, and do give a think. Do consider home birthing in your birthing plans. It is well worth it.
Yeah. There's two forms of it. You can do independent, where you pay the midwife directly, and then sometimes the hospitals have home birth programs. They usually have very tight rules around those, so you have to explore that. But that's only available in the public system. So by all means, have a look at what's available and explore all choices. And I do tend to think women know where they feel the safest. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll have more goodness for you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe and share this podcast. This episode has been brought to you by Transform Parenting, an organisation that provides courses, coaching and community from pregnancy through to the first 7 years of a child's life. It is a place where you can learn, get support and grow into your role as a parent. Why not take advantage of a special gift for all pregnant women at transformyourbirth.com.au? Or if you have children, we have a gift for parents also.